Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and today we're going to talk about the Tomb Kings. You see, they're still one of the best DLCs ever released by Creative Assembly, but they could really use a little bit more flavor. Something along the lines of just giving a few extra units, a few extra mechanics, a little bit of everything just to have a little bit more fun, as obviously the Tomb Kings themselves are still missing a few things. So we're going to talk about Tomb Kings Extended now. And yes, this is a mod that's been on the workshop for a while, but it's been on alpha state. Now it's moved on to beta state, so I think this is the perfect time to actually show it off and what you could be expecting through your campaigns as any of the 4 legendary lords at the moment. So let's not waste any more time and jump right in. So we're going to look at all the legendary lords, we're going to look at all the changes because some of them are getting stuff unique to them, and keep in mind that there are a lot of unique characters being implemented to this mod at the very beginning. Not all of them are here, as, well, this mod's still getting updated and transferred over from Warhammer 2 state to Warhammer 3. But if you decide to play as Settra, and why wouldn't you? Well, you've got the Herald of Settra Nakarth already being added in from the very beginning of your campaign. This is his own personal banner bearer. He's got everything that you need, even some items. He's got his own traits, his own skills, with his own trait giving quite a strong effect for the very beginning of your campaign. Recruit rank +3 for Nehakara warriors, skeleton spearmen, skeleton archers, vulture legion, Nehakara archers, tomb guard archers, tomb guard, royal guard, and royal archer units. Character leadership aura effect +12, and then leadership +8 for Nehakara warriors, skeleton spearmen, skeleton archers, vulture legion, Nehakara archers, tomb guard, royal guard, and royal guard units in hero's army. He's got his own unique skill line. It's a rather small one, but it increases his HP and ward save because it keeps him well defended. Then he can decrease enemy leadership. He can even boost up the leadership of your lords. So yeah, you want to keep him with Settra, and cause terror too. He's honestly a very good character if you want to buff up Settra more, and really this is how banner bearers kind of works. Well, they buffed up the whole army, but this is specifically to buff up your character, your lord option. Unit upgrades are returning once again, costing canopic jars. There's loads of different ones depending on the unit, so you can get a load of different variety here. You can more or less just tailor your armies to what lord you're playing or what playstyle you want specifically from a specific minor lord, and it works out really well. It's a lot of flavor. It's something that you probably won't focus on too much very early into your campaign, but it's something that's noticeable for later game as you start dealing with endgame stacks if the enemy starts providing a little bit of issues. Alright, so now we're going to go into technology, and this is Settra, who's got access to a new line over at the end of the tech tree. So it's going to be a while until you start focusing here, because this is mostly focused on canopic jars and can be fairly expensive, but as you can see, you've got access to a bunch of techs that is going to make your armies really, really strong, from replacing the bows with your archers and increasing their range or ammunition, to extra melee attack when fighting against greenskins, ogres, Skaven. Hell, there's so much there just to make your army real powerhouses, and it kind of makes sense because you are playing a Settra, who is going to have the best army around with him. That's not all, however. As you'll see in the Dynasty sections, you'll also get some special tech, and for that you're going to have to basically get a special building, so you're going to actually need to get some specific buildings and finish up some other techs, which is going to cost you a lot of money. It's also going to cost you a decent amount of canopic jars, so these are big bonuses. Some of them are quite specific. Each of the lords have their own special thing, but for Settra, you know, extra fighting against lizardmen, extra stuff to be able to get armies quicker onto the field. The only thing here is it's going to take time, so these powerful bonuses work really well, and I think it's a good thing that it takes time to get them, because it gives you something to strive for. As you know, when you start snowballing with the actual Tomb Kings, it becomes a thing where you become, well, pretty much unstoppable. So yeah, I'm all for this, and it's just quite nice. Further to this, each of the legendary lords have their own unique techs there, so Katep has also got some where you can get a little stronger with a few different things. You know, you can just get vigor loss reduction, you can even get more capacity for Lich Priests, because everything is themed to the specific character. And again, it gives you something to work for. Yeah, you'll have to get specific buildings and you'll have to get specific tech, but as you go there, you can get better edicts, you can get reduced construction. Everything here just works out very well. There's some that are going to be better than others, where you're going to be able to increase the bows, or you know, you can just get better Upshati or Screaming Skull catapults. So obviously you're going to have to plan ahead and see which ones are the ones better for you at the very moment. But again, very stylized, and I love the distinction of having these characters having different types of tech, especially for a faction that currently can't confederate unless you use, you know, recruit defeated legendary lords and stuff. It's important to make them as stylized as possible, give you more replayability. The same thing goes for High Queen Khalida, which in my opinion has been probably the most fun campaign that I've been able to play. You get more income, there's stuff revolving around just extra strength for archers, because Khalida is very heavily archer focused if you remember her from the tabletop, even increasing the recruit rank and everything. It's just it's good to get that archer spam, but extra winds of magic or better necropolis knights, it very much depends on what you're looking for. But in general, you've got loads and loads of bonuses, there's loads of better capacity stuff. So I think that the whole focusing on changing the playstyle of each of the legendary lords just to make them so different while still being the same faction and culture is something that I hope that we see eventually when it comes to vanilla, if we ever get a Tomb King rework, which you never know. If we do get another Tomb King DLC as they're missing stuff, yeah, that could be possible. Anyways, if we go on to Arkan the Black, that's where things get a little bit more different too, as Arkan is quite stylized with his own sub-faction as it already starts. You know, he's got access to some vampire count units. Well, here it's been changed where you'll get access to vampire coast units, some extra vampire count units, and you get a bit more buffs towards your vampire count units. So this is a faction-wide thing, so it'll give you more reason to actually have vampire count units and vampire coast units in different armies, not just Arkan, which I think is a very, very good thing, as it adds in a little bit more of a reason to call this a sub-faction, rather than I'm going to use the vampire count units at the very beginning of the campaign and then never use them again. So I'm a big fan of this. I'm actually a really, really big fan of this. Anyways, at turn 2, you can get a very much loved character. Well, it starts there, where you can get the chance of getting Prince Apophis. This is a very popular character from the tabletop, which is a massive shame that we still don't have him in Total War, because he's one of my favorite miniatures of all time, like no questions asked, and simple enough to get. You just have to go to Numas, and yeah, just destroy it, and there you go. It's a quest system, but it introduces quite a bit. The character himself is quite cool. He's got access to all his stuff. He's got a few items. At the beginning, he's got access to his own unique trait, which increases casualty replenishment for all units in army. Extra Untainted, which is useful considering that you're going to be dealing with Scarbrand early on. And yeah, he's also got his Incantation of Vengeance. So he's got access to 3 different items, as you can see on screen right now. No set bonus at the moment, but keep in mind that this is still a beta mod, but it's still very, very playable. And he's able to do a lot more damage with all this type of stuff. He's able to increase campaign movement range quite dramatically, which I find very, very useful when you're starting to take over all of the Hekara, going into the Southlands and then pushing yourself up north. And increasing unit capacity here is just very, very helpful. Perfect Vigor for a bunch of stuff too is just great too. He's also got his own unique skill line, which is going to make him a little bit more killy. It's going to give him regeneration, it's going to give him increased spell resistance, disrupting enemy formations. This is great, as it's just, this is the character, this is what he does. He just does damage. He's supposed to be there as the ultimate assassin for the Tomb Kings, and he very much is so in lore. So yeah, having a Tomb King assassin in a sense is actually kind of helpful, and is of course very unique. You will also notice as you play through your campaign that there are a few unique looking legendary characters. Right now they don't have mechanics and stuff, and they don't have any special abilities as far as I've seen, but keep in mind, again, beta mod and stuff will get improved on the future, so always keep an eye out if you're just waiting to start a Tomb King campaign. But you're more than able to just start now and just have fun with one of the 4 baseline legendary lords, and then come back in the future just to play again, because this is the great thing about modding. It adds more replayability because you can play as different characters. Alright, so when you go into the construction tab, you will notice that there's a bunch of new units, there's a few new buildings too, and you're going to have to work for this. Some of the buildings are attached to extra population growth. which can slow it down, but some of these units are actually quite strong. But yeah, you've got units all over, littered all over. There's just a massive amount of new units just to give the Tomb Kings a little bit of extra flavor. If you remember these from Warhammer 2, then you can remember them quite well. The best thing is that you've got more variety throughout all the different tiers, which I think is something that the Tomb Kings did definitely lack. And it actually lets you just experiment more, because let's be honest, Tomb King stacks were very similar at the beginning of your campaign. And just to add to a little bit extra variety, Arkan the Black also has something different, where you've got some buildings dedicated to Vampire Coast and Vampire Count units. This is to give you more of a feel of the whole Followers of Nagash thing, because all of them are supposed to be kind of united. You don't get the full rosters, which, you know, is honestly quite fair, but it's enough to allow you to have some fun, and I kind of like this. I honestly think that Arkan getting a little bit of extra flavor like this just really brings this campaign up to a little bit more style. We're going to make this section kind of brief because there's just so much, but the Mortuary Cult has actually had a bunch of stuff added in, whether new units of legend, new banners and followers, armor, all this different types of stuff. So it gives you more reason to actually use it, which I'll be honest, I forget about a lot in vanilla because really I just use it just to get a new dynasty and that's it. But there's a lot more things to play with, so you're actually just exploring around a little bit more, and I think that works out quite well. So we're going to go through everything that's been added in, and as you can tell, there's quite a lot of them. A lot of them are just extra variants for different tiers, but it adds in just a bit more for you to play around with. The first is Apophis, and when you actually click play is when he'll actually start using all the special VFX and all that type of stuff. Keep in mind, sometimes some stuff can clip and be a little bit buggy, but this is still beta. I have to keep stressing this because I know some people will go, oh, you know, this just looks bad or whatever. It's like, well, if you know you think you could do better, do it yourself. Anyways, so then there's the Herald Nakaf too, who looks pretty cool. Banner bearers are such an important thing, I'd say. I love the look of banner bearers. I know it's not the most impressive thing to most people, but I really want banner bearers officially. It would just be really nice to have the whole full command aspect. Skeleton slave laborers are nothing too special, let's be honest, their stats are pretty horrible, but this is exactly what they are. They're just skeleton slaves, so they're there to be a meat shield if you want a meat shield very early on. And yeah, there's something to do with them. I don't know, I haven't really seen too much reason. It is nice to have some expendable units, but yeah, cannon fodder. Tomb Corsairs are a new unit which gives you that whole Dreadfleet vibe. There's two different versions. So there's the Breaching Axes, which look absolutely awesome. I'm a big fan of this unit. Different stats all around, you know. This is an axe infantry, they're damage dealers, they're aquatic too, which is quite interesting, but, you know, for island battles or anything that does have like little swampy terrain and stuff, it helps you kind of have something to move around through that. You've also got access to a dual cutlass version. These ones I actually like a little bit more because they've got access to Vanguard, so you've got something that can get right in front at the very beginning, and I think that goes to your benefit because the Tomb Kings don't really have a lot of stuff that can Vanguard. You get a decent amount from the mod, and it just adds a little bit more to it. What you will also notice is that there's a lot of variants of stuff that you already had just with new weapon types, and honestly, again, that works out quite well. The great thing about the tabletop is that we had loads of different types of weapons. Not every unit did, but it just adds to a little bit more if you prefer great weapons, if you prefer sword and shield, if you prefer spears. Having the option is always really, really nice. It's something that I really enjoy that we got through Champions of Chaos for the Chaos Warriors, and I hope that we get a little bit more of that when it comes to future DLC, but until then, mods will thankfully be able to add in those unit variants. Ancient Tomb Mummies are a new unit, and these are a melee-based unit. You can see here from the stats, they do magical damage too, they're armor-piercing, they're armored, they're anti-infantry. So what you will notice is that I'm not going to cover every single variant, mostly because, well, yeah, there's a lot of them, but having magical attacks, especially when dealing with demons, is very, very useful, and you also get some other stuff here, like for example here we've got the Dragon Slaves, which are just, you know, gunners for the Tomb Kings, which is kind of unknown, but then again it kind of fits in with the whole aspect of the Vampire Coast, you know, Dreadfleet type of stuff, and just having some stuff with a little bit of armor piercing is going to be quite useful, especially if, yeah, it's not the best range, but, you know, you're going to be dealing with Chaos Warriors, you're going to be dealing with loads of heavily armored stuff. This is going to make it a little bit less frustrating. So instead of getting all the different variants or stuff that's very much the same in their own specific clip, I'm just going to put them all together. You can see that you've got access to a new type of archer, which is the Vulture Legion. These are short bows, but the great thing is obviously that they can vanguard. But the rest of the stuff is just adding from what we already have, or just a new version of a unit just being a higher tier. And yeah, you've got loads and loads of archers to play with right now, which I think is going to be quite beneficial, especially if you want to play as, you know, Khalida, or you want a little bit more range in general with any of your factions. It just adds in a little bit more punch, which, yeah, fits in really well with the Tomb Kings. They do actually use a lot of range. This is something that was well known on the tabletop, and just having a higher tier is just going to be better instead of just being with the usual trash. Same thing with the horses, it's just extra variants, and yeah, you can't really go wrong with that, can you? Just having a little bit of extra push there, you know, just keeping one of the baseline vanilla ones in screen just to compare is honestly going to be helpful. I don't know if you want to use these many horses or not, but having the option again is always very useful. Plus, you never know, maybe you just want to have a cavalry-based lord because you want a cavalry-themed army or a cavalry-themed playthrough, and you want to do that with the Tomb Kings for whatever reason, because at the end of the day, it's your game, you can do whatever you want. So having the option, again, very, very cool. And it just makes sense to actually have higher tier units mount up on horses. It's kind of weird that you just kind of lose that on the vanilla playthroughs, because, I don't know, again, it wasn't there on the army book, but, you know, it's only logical that if you get promoted, you're still going to know how to ride a horse. You do get some extra variants of your big beasties, including a more melee-focused bone giant, a hero titan with a great bow, which is kind of scary, in all honesty, and just a few things here and there, which, again, variants. Variants are a good thing. I know a lot of people say it's a lazy thing when it comes officially, but even officially, variants are a good thing. Alright, so this is when we start looking towards the newer stuff. So we've got the Tomb Swarm. There's two different variants of them. One's just a bit higher tier, and yeah, they look freaking cool. It's just nice. I really want Swarm units to be an actual unit, seeing as we got it for the Nurglings. So imagine if we had this for the Tomb Kings eventually, or maybe even Giant Rats too. I know, I'm asking for much, but they look cool, and it's always nice to have a Swarm unit just like we had them in a tabletop. We got some other cool stuff like the Bestefi here, you know, they're Vanguard, they're very fast, this gives you something fast to move around with, the Tomb Kings, they're Magic Harvesters, it's not great stats overall, but then again, this is kind of like having your own Warhounds, but they're cats. War cats. Or maybe you want a big kitty, single entity monster, very similar to that of the battle kitties for Kislev. So it's very fast, Vanguard deployment, it's got dodge, stalk, it's there to be a monster hunter, or at least that's what I've been kind of using it for. And it's pretty good for sniping out any straggling types of artillery, hell, even some characters too. 95 speed is nothing to sniff at. So yeah, it's honestly cool. It looks awesome too. The unique stuff that you're going to be seeing is stuff that we've either had as miniatures in one way or another, or has been in lore, and you know, it's just awesome. The same thing with like the Skeletal War Elephant. This is more of a new thing, but it looks absolutely cool because, I mean, let's just be honest. Skeletons are cool, mammoths are cool, this is just cool. It's just the big thing. And yeah, it's a big monster. It's got fantastic stats. I absolutely love it. So hopefully we can see more of this. Next is a bolt thrower, and I know this might not be the most exciting for people, but bolt throwers were part of the undead armies back in the day when Tomb Kings and Vampire Counts didn't exist. It was just one singular army. So this is more pulling at the nostalgia strings more than anything else. And it looks cool. I honestly love it. And lastly, we have the Khemric Titan, which never had an official model, unfortunately, but it did have rules, it did have illustrations, and it's just awesome. This is a massive freaking unit. It just looks absolutely incredible. It's just nice, honestly. I really wish we did have this as an official model, because I remember looking through the old books that had the rules for this, and I used to think, wow, this might actually make the Tomb Kings fun. But, yeah, in another day, another universe, another timeline. Until then, yeah, we've got it in Total War in the form of a mod, and it looks awesome. It can destroy walls too, which is going to be quite useful depending on when we start getting custom maps or so, because I've seen people doing some custom maps, so this will definitely help, and it helps in vanilla. I mean, it's just, it's a big unit. Who doesn't want one of these in their army? It's just visually impressive, and yeah, this is what makes the mod for me. Honestly, this unit is what makes the mod for me. But with all that being said, if you want a reason to play with the Tomb Kings, this is definitely that, so the mod can be found in the description below. There's definitely stuff that I've missed out, but I'm currently having issues with recording because my neighbors are doing construction without warning anyone. So yeah, but yeah, let me know what you guys think about the mod in the comments below. Let's talk about the Tomb Kings. Do you think that they need anything else officially, or is this mod enough, or is there anything in specific that you're still waiting for? Keep in mind that this mod, once again, is still in beta, so there's still more to come. And until then, I shall see you all very, very soon.